Welcome to part 2 of my Sumo tutorial. If the last part made you good at the game, then this part will make you a literal god amongst men. Before we get into the video, please subscribe to my channel, as more than half of you actually aren't, and we're really close to 200 subscribers, which would be massive to me. Also, make sure to watch to the end. Enjoy the video. Alright, so in the last video, I think I kind of gave a pretty indistinct way of winning, because I kind of just said, so learn to sprint reset and you'll win, which... you know, it's not entirely wrong. Like, if you can master sprint resetting to the best of your abilities, you're set. You should be perfectly fine to win nearly every single game that you play. That's not entirely wrong. But this video, I'm planning on effectively going into more detail and also giving some tips and tricks that can help make your life easier when you're trying to win a game of Sumo. So the first one that's very helpful is knowing what sprint reset method to do and when. So generally, in the start of a combo, you want to W tap, but then once you've got them in a combo, you want to S tap. Obviously, if this is how you W tap, then you're doing it wrong. You need to do it like this, so you hit them when you do that. Basically, you want to learn when to swap sprint reset method. So, alright, so I'm going to show you what you would do when you're kind of trading. So obviously when you're trading like this, you just W tap, and obviously once you get from here, like this, it's generally, once you get to this point, when you get to a point where you can confidently combo them, you can start S-tapping like that. And S-tapping is good overall. But S-tapping is good to keep a combo. I 100% could say S-tapping is much better at keeping a combo, but it is very bad at starting combos. I do not recommend S-tapping to start combos. Another one that I honestly just find it really toxic, which is sprint shift resetting. No, not that, shift like that, is you shift it instead. That one I just find it really toxic. It's kind of, so yeah, that's why I wouldn't do that. But basically, yeah, learn to take advantage of if you're comboing or in a trade. And obviously if you're being comboed, the best you could do is just be hit backward until you can get that lucky hit. So once you're being comboed like this, let's say you can't, for some reason or other, you can't hit them. There are a couple ways of it. Obviously in regular PvP, you just jump. You jump to take more KB. But here, the most you could do is just kind of timing your W taps and hopefully break the combo. Because the way you break a combo really is just get the hit, because then they can't hit you anymore, and that's your opportunity to get a combo back on them. So another thing that is really handy to learn is how to strafe. So I'm just going to strafe really quickly just around him. So there are lots of ways to do it. Obviously, there's circle strafing, which is terrible overall, because, you know, you're not getting any forward momentum, so you're not doing any real KB to them. So that's why I would not. But another one that I don't just recommend is just holding W and going in one direction, because you get way too close to them way too fast. So the strategy I like to use is obviously W tap while strafing like this, because it helps you maintain your distance. And often what I'll do is I'll change direction every single hit I land. I'll change direction every single hit I land like this. As you can tell, each time I land a hit, even though I'm still timing my W taps, I also strafe. I also change direction pretty much, like that. Now another one that I like to do is called A tapping or D tapping. It works so basically it's strafing like this. Obviously you still time your W taps, basically just spam D like this. It's kind of hard to figure out, and you can do the same with the other key, like that. So yeah, that's generally the idea of how, you know, you strafe is, you need basically make it a lot random. Make sure no matter when you hit them, you're still holding W like that. That's why I always recommend strafing something like this. Another way is just going in one direction and occasionally changing, just like this, which works. But I'd highly advise changing each hit and change it in different amounts. And one time change it really small, the next go like halfway around them like that. Because it makes it really randomised and makes it harder for them to predict where you're going to hit. But it also means you're going slightly slower than them, which is, you'd think is a bad thing because you're dealing less KB to them then. However, you're also keeping your distance, meaning they can't hit you while they're in the air. But you can keep heading forwards a little bit each time to hit them while they still can't hit you. That's why strafing is really good. The final thing that I'm going to share with you is a cool little method that really works best when you have higher ping than your opponent. Alright, so the next method that I'm going to show you, and the final one that really again only works if you have higher ping than the opponent, is called hit selection. Now what this means is you actually let the opponent get the first hit, and this seems unwise. However, you'll see the reason in a moment. So basically, I'm going to get him to hit me. Obviously, basically you let them get first hit, but when you get hit up, like this, you see I'm coming because of hit selection. I hit him into the air, I hit him into the air. So he hits me into the air like this, but then when I hit him while I'm mid-air, I'll hit the ground before he hits the ground, and that means he's further in the end. I'm outside his hit range while he is still in my hit range, and that leaves you open to a combo. Basically, that means it's very easy to get a combo on the other person, and from there, this is one thing that you need to keep in mind. This should be my strat is definitely do not do this on the first hit in the game, because that'll often lead to you being comboed really, really quickly if it doesn't work. But definitely sort of if you feel like they're slightly better than you, or even just after the first couple of hits when you start to trade, 100% try this method, because I can guarantee you it should work most times. Again, this is ping based and also fairly luck based, but it should work anywhere. It's just more effective with a higher ping. Alright, here's the demonstration again. So I'm gonna let him get the first hit on me like this. As you can tell, I can't hit him, right? And so the way I do that is, the way to store this is, as you can tell, when I'm in the air, I'm on the ground before he gets onto the ground, and it kind of leaves him open to being comboed. There we go, like that. Usually it's only good like 3-4 hit combo, but if you're really, really good at combo locking, like this, like that, again, it's another example where it comes really in handy. Again, don't expect this to work on the first hit, kind of just expect it to work eventually, and sometimes it won't, and if it doesn't, you have to prepare yourself. There's not a huge amount I can recommend other than my other trick before of how to scale combo. Just pray that you get that lucky hit before you go flying over the edge. Alright, so now that I've shown you some of those kind of extra little methods, I'm going to show you some methods I can only demonstrate in Sumo that will just kind of give you a slight edge over your opponent, as opposed to if you didn't use these tricks. So let's get straight into it. At the start, you should generally just always just do one jump right at the start, because it helps you get a little bit further into the arena than your opponent. That means when you do trades or whatever, they're always being driven back into their side and further there, instead of you being driven back this way. It kind of just gives you a little bit of an advantage. It's not huge, but it's nice, and it's kind of really easy to do, so there's no reason to not do it. Gives you a bit of an easier time. Second one is, you should definitely need to learn to pay attention really to the players that you're actually fighting, because especially on servers like Mindmen, where like a lot of the time you'll be fighting the same player constantly, and it's like you need to learn, is that player good? Because if that player's good, that's kind of good and bad for multiple reasons. So firstly, it's good because, you know, you're fighting someone better than you, and that's kind of how you get better. It's because if you're fighting someone worse than you, sure, you're practicing the skills you already know, but you're not learning skills to use to fight people who are better than you, which is why. But the bad thing obviously is that chances are, you know, you're going to be clapped. Kind of like what I was saying before. Another one is just use games really as a learning experience. So when someone like completely destroys you, just ask them like, hey, how did you do that? I'm not that great. I want to learn how to be better. But I still do that occasionally. Like, you know, it's still nice to learn extra techniques that other people use, because it just helps you get an edge over other players. Second thing, whatever. Anyway, the third one is just utilize the movement of the other person. Really, like, you need to make sure that you're paying constant attention to where they're moving in terms of the outside of the map, because if they're running right around the outside still comboing you, all it takes really is one good lucky hit to kill them, because they're right on the edge. So let's say they're comboing you down there, but they're there, you might get the lucky hit and hit them off like that. So that's why you should always pay attention to the enemy's movement. Just look at, also another reason paying attention to the opponent's movement is a good idea, is the fact it's that it helps you learn movement patterns, so you can get advantage of that person, but also if someone's better than you, you can use it to your advantage in the future. Because anyway, as I was saying before, learn people's movement patterns really. Also be ready for a change really in the opponent, because the opponent could magically get a combo, and if you're comboing them, you need to still be alert for the fact that they could still pull it back around and murder you. So you need to be paying attention constantly for, is there anything that might give away the fact that they're going to beat you? And some people just radiate pure sweat the second you get in the lobby, and you know you're going to die to them. Because firstly, it's not always the best idea to just go, I'm going to die to them, because more than likely you will die to, because more than likely thinking you're going to die to someone means you're going to die to someone, because you're like, oh, they're too good, I'm not going to try as well, because that means, because they're good, so I'll die anyway. This guy's a good example. He's good and he killed me, but you know, sure that I wasn't certain that I could die from that. The last one I can really tip I can give is just learn knockback system. Basically, a couple of things. So learn KB, learn how KB works, and just what makes you take slightly less KB and what deals more. That was really good, because that understanding KB is how you can get combos like that where you can hit them even slightly outside your hit range. Because obviously, usually when hitting someone outside your hit range is just a result of lag, like more than anything. Obviously, it's server lagging and the hit registers when they're outside, but if you can get to a point where you've learnt your ping well enough, you can often get some pretty lucky hits, but still, it's like in bridge. One of these things that I have in bridge for me is, that a lot of people don't seem to have, is I'll jump off, or like they'll hit me really far to the side, but I'll hit them and they'll still jump off because my ping's not the best on servers like Hypixel. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, please subscribe as we're really close to 200 subscribers, and also join my Discord server because I'm really trying to grow my community over there. Anyway, goodbye.